This is the story about my family, the people who came before us and after us, in the town called Aguilar that we call home.
This town is the great metropolis of Aguilar. This is where all these, my father, Alice's father and mother and grandparents, this is the town that they come to when they come from the old country. And they claim that the husband had won the town in a poker game, and that's how. And then they had certain sections of it. Then they started dividing these sections, and that's how the town came about. Okay, this family tree here is the thing that we want to try to stress here is that how me and Alice come together. So we have, I went as far back as her great-grandparents and my great-grandparents. And the reason we didn't go back any further because most of them come from the old country. So we can start off from here where we have a Francesco Catani, and he married a Dominica. At this point I didn't know the last name, so I called her Dominica Catani. All right, and from this marriage here, they had a son named Giovanni Catani. All right, then over here we had this Giacchino Valenti, who married a Teresa Scazzoni, and they in turn had these children, Albina, Eugenio, Costanza, Silvio, Enrico, and Aberdino. Well, what happened is that this one of these people here was a real wealthy man in Aguilar. He was probably the wealthiest man in Aguilar. His name was Enrico Valentini. Now, one thing about this Enrico, he died, and he was scared. He was the richest man in the town of Aguilar at that time, and he died and he was scared. He lived in a place that was made concrete walls. And so when he died, he had some brothers in the old country who come 6 months after he had died, and they dug him up so that the brothers could see him, you know. Oh no, you're kidding. Yeah, and when they found out that his body had turned certain colors or stuff, they knew that he had been poisoned. Oh. And that, they don't know how it got poisoned, but this was Alice's great uncle that this happened to him. So he sent for his sister. His sister was Albina. Well, she in turn had married this Giovanni Catani, and they had a son named Oresti.
Now see, Dad, Enrico came, and then Albina is his sister.
Sister, yes, yeah. And her husband died in the old country, and then she married a man named Yemi. Okay. That was living here. All right. Then from Oresti, they went into the family of. He married an Angelina. He went to work in the mine up here. He was working in a coal mine, and he was sort of like a tipple boss. Well, he got mad at some of the people there that were working. They weren't doing that, so he starts to going down the mine mad, and the cable that pulls the cars up out of the mine, you know, they have these cables that pull these coal cars like the one that's out there. Well, what happened is it got caught, the cable snapped, and hit him across here and cut him in half. He was 29 years old, bled to death before he got to. And Alice, the daughter, the last daughter, was born 2 months after her dad died. See, she wasn't born when her dad died. She never did know her father. Well, to get back to how to get the Angelina, we find out that there was a Matthew Jabernick and a Mary Paycheck, who were the parents of, they were Alice's grandfather and grandmother. And they, in turn, had 5 girls and 3 boys. And these were all of their relations: Angelina, Oscar, Joe, Mary, Matthew, Ida, Bessie, and Sophie. All right. Now, Angelina married Oresti, and then, in turn, they had 3 girls and a boy. And from these 3 girls, there was Helen, Marianne, Oresti, and Ellis.
About 3 years after Angelina's husband Oresti died while working in a mine, Angelina entered into a common law marriage with Frank Guagnoli and had 2 boys, Frankie and Danny.
Ellis, which is, in turn, comes to marry Joe, which is me. But in order to get my part of it, now, are you following me as I move along here? As we come into this part here, we have Gaetano Arnone married to Santa Vazina and Fajana, and they in turn had some boys, Giuseppe, Salvatore, Sandro, Michelina, Carmelo. Well, from this marriage, we come up with Michelina, Maria, Santa, and Gaetano. All right, these were the Arnone side of it there. Then on my mother's side, which was the Peluso side, it starts from down here also, where we have a Francesco Bombino married Maria Galante. And then from there, they had a bunch of kids, Michele, Vincenzo, Francesco. This Vincenzo Bombino, who was a sort of a freak of nature type of a person. I told some of them here that he had this this tail. His spine overgrew about this long, and it hung over the side. But he had a strength that was a freak. He was really a freak of nature. He could, at one time in Salt Lake City there, he put a streetcar on track. You know, he just got out and picked it up and put it on track with the people in it. With the people in it. And it was in the paper up there. When I went out there years ago, I should have got a copy of it. Another thing that he used to do is, years ago, they used to, for the 4th of July, they used to have tug of war. The Slavs and the Italians. And the Slavs used to beat the hell out of the Italians every year because they had those big, those big Slavs. They were tough. So one year they decided, they says, well, we got to beat these Slavs, you know, they won't let us live it down. So they went to, this was in Crested Butte, Colorado. So they says, we'll send for this Vincenzo Bombino and bring him out here, we'll pay his trip and everything. So they brought him out.
The big guy, the big guy.
Little guy. Yeah, he was probably built like Mario, one of the pictures that I've seen. I don't even know where they're at there. He's probably like Mario, you know, stocky like that. And so they brought him to Crested Butte and they says, well, we're going to have this tug of war tomorrow, which is the 4th of July. And there was the Italians visit the Slavs, you know. And so they had the little conference before there. My father was there and he says, he told them, all right, now, he says, I'm going to get in the back with the rope, and he kind of got the rope around here and tied like this. The only thing I want you guys to do is to make sure I don't fall down, you know. You steady this rope.
Yeah.
And so he started digging like this. And when he dug, he dragged those slabs, they said, clear across the finish line. Wouldn't stop, he was mad, you know, didn't want to stop with that. I want to stop him to get, but that's, I guess, one of the few years that the Italians beat the Slavs up there in Crested Butte. This Giuseppe married Francesca Maria Bombino, see, from the southern part here. Here, my grandfather came to Salt Lake to go work, and when he was working in Salt Lake, when he was working to Salt Lake, he went to, he was here for a couple months. He left his wife pregnant in the old country. After he was here a couple months, he had got ruptured appendix and died. My mother was born 2 months or 3 months after he died. See, so, and they in turn come up with 4 daughters, which was my mother. And for my mother there was Raquel, Rosina, Clorinda, and Aquilina. As a matter of fact, this Raquel, which is according to the family tree, when she was a young girl, she had a real high fever, and she became an epileptic. And then, but her mind, then it affected her mind real bad, so that she probably had the mind of a 10-year-old. She never did get on. And when my folks come by, they come to this country, her sister, Rosina, my mother's sister, Rosina, was the first one to come. And I guess I was telling Joel there that she come as a matched marriage was set up for her. her uncle, which was my grandfather's brother, had set up a marriage, and they sent for her. Well, in the meantime, my aunt Clorinda stayed in the old country, and my mother come to this country to be with her. Then that's where my mother met my father, and
how did they meet, Dad?
oh, he saw her. He had heard about it, that she had come, and thought she was the most beautiful thing in the world, which she was. She was really a beautiful girl, a beautiful woman at that when she was young. And so he started courting her, and of course my dad had been here. My dad come in 1905. My mother didn't get here till 1922, and 1921, and they met and married in 22. And then from this union, there was 4 boys and 1 girl, and the boys were Joe, which is my name, my son, my brother Gilbert, Orlando, Armando, and Edith. I was the firstborn, but before me there were 3 miscarriages. My mother had 3 miscarriages, and then she had a daughter that the doctor says, you got to go to bed on your 6th month, but that's what you would lose them. You go to the bed and you stay there until you deliver. So my mother went. The baby lived to be to the full 9-month period. After 18 days, caught pneumonia and died. Oh. She's buried up here at this cemetery, and that's Josephine. She's buried at the cemetery. So after that, I was born. I was the oldest born. My father was 40 years older than I was, and in 7 years, my mother had 5 more children. She had 5 children with me. And then, you see where I married Alice, and then from this union we had 4 boys and 3 girls: Albina, Gaetano, Judy, Dino, Christina, Maria, and Joseph. Mario and Joseph. All right, Albina married James Lee, and she has 3 stepchildren: Jason, Joseph, and Joel, and Jocelyn. And Judy married Steve Matidi, which he has 2 boys, which were Mario and Vincenzo. And Gaetano married Beth Henrietta, which had 4 girls: Maya, Linnea, Annika, Kayla, and she married a Bryce Lassiter. All right, on this other side here, we have from my brothers, where my brother Gilbert married Mitzi Caserni, no children. My brother Orlando married a Betty Beloshin, which ended up with 2 girls and a boy, Linda, Patty, and Joe. Shally, Armando married Linda, whatever, and they had a daughter named Shally. And Edith married Leon Philwood and had 2 boys, had a boy and a girl, Armando and Melina, and Armando married and had 2 girls and a boy, Victoria, Kennedy, and Reese. Then from this other side here, we have how the other relations, which I'm sure that my children will want to know how some of them come about. We had a Clorinda here, which was my mother's sister, who didn't have any, got married, didn't have any children. My mother's sister Rosina married a Carmelo Guadagnoli and had 2 girls and 4 boys: Louis, Carl, Joe, Carl, Mary, Francis, and Albert. And they in turn married. One married a Wanda Lackey, had 2 children, which was Sophie and Robert. And Joe married Catherine. Married Catherine and had 1 daughter named Rosemary. Mary married Preston Abel, had Freddie and Patty. Then she married a guy named Glenn and had Herb. And Francis never did remarry, never did marry. And Albert married Mary Ann and had 4 children: Albert, Kathy, Jerry, and Michael. Well, that's it.
C'è una luna menzumata, mamma mia, mamma di dare. Figlia mia, cosa dare, mamma mia, pensaccia tu. Sette figlie lo pesciaiole, issu va, issu viene, sempre lo pesce a manatena. Se ci ingappa la fantasia dei pescioli a vecchiuzza mia, la riola, pesce fritto e baccalà.
That was one of the most beautiful nights in my life. I mean, it just, I don't know, I felt I just felt dolly again. I just felt like I looked pretty neat, and I had on a beautiful gown that I've never had before in my whole life.
And thank you to our mom and dad, and thank you for all being here and being part of our great family, because you know what? You're pretty lucky to have me.
I work Thanks to B.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks to B for hosting it. Yeah, thanks B. Yeah. Thanks Bina for hosting it.
Hostess and host.
I don't know, Bina was more kind of more grown up. Well, see, I kind of did her injustice by, you know, having this family after. She was only 10 years old, so then she becomes a single mother. You know, they say that she's my number one. She is.
Since I'm the oldest, I start out.
Oh,
And all I want to say is that this is to honor our parents, who we love very much, and we thank them for everything they've done for us. They've supported us in a lot more ways than you know. And they've given us all the love and taught us how to be confident, loving, and we're very happy to have you as our parents, and we love you very much.
Awesome!
You know, and Gaetano, I still to this day, he was a good student all the time. But what he's doing now, mentally, and doing these computer chips, it ceases to amaze me. He's so above what he was taught in that school.
But I was thinking about how their 50 years, it's probably been like a voyage or a trip or whatever. And again, it does have its ups and downs. And anybody that knows anything about marriage, and I hear there's some people that are contemplating it, but it's, I have to agree with my dad. It's good that there's been more good than bad years, and more good times than bad times. I should say years, I should say, just good times and bad times. But on my part of it, I'm just thankful that I have parents like I have, because they taught me a lot of things, and they had to do a lot of things to me to kind of straighten me out a few times. But I'm just grateful for them, and I'm proud of them because they hung in there for 50 years. It's a big monument. It really is. And I appreciate them, and I love them. Love all my friends.
Salute!
Well done,
Shut up and get on with the next one.
I admire Judy because I see her, she's more strong. She can, like I wanted to be.
Okay, so since I'm and the most wanted, and Judy Joe, who wasn't born on St. Jude's Day, but that's okay, Dad. I am very proud.
Yes.
You have showed me more confidence, and I get my heart from my mom, and my guts from my dad.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be a nurse. And I thank you.
And a great mother.
Salute.
I'm thankful for all these 7 children.
Oh, you
And
better be.
Dino the most.
Pretty
And
good.
Dino was really special to me, his face.
We've encountered good weather and bad weather. We've encountered good roads and bad roads. We've had good times and we've had bad times. But we are very fortunate to have had many more good roads than bad roads, more good times than bad times, especially during the holidays when family dinners and get-togethers, during our graduation open houses, and we have been blessed to be able to spend a lot of time together as a family. But we have also had some sad times. The loss of our parents, our Dino, brothers and sisters and friends. The saddest time was when Dino was called to his heavenly home. Even though he's not physically present with us tonight, but I'm sure that spiritually he's with us every day and at every occasion that we celebrate, and I'm sure that he's here with us tonight.
But Christina was one of the best ones that I'd have on weekends, and every weekend she'd clean the house beautiful, and even after, when she left the house, she'd come on weekends and my house would shine.
But I want to thank Mom and Dad for being the best parents anybody could ever have. And you guys have been this is so hard for me. Come on, you've been there for me through everything. And I want to thank you because I love you both so much. And we love you. Oh, salute.
Salute. Mario is so much like his dad. Mario was kind of a soft and real tender too. But then he got a lot of traits from his dad as he grew older, and he's a tinker too, in a way. He's a sharpshooter.
In 1969, I was born. That was the best thing that happened to these two people.
Not as pretty as you, though.
He was beautiful.
Wish Mom and Dad a happy 50th anniversary. I've always been proud to say that I was the son of Joe and Arnone. And if I ever have a family, I want to be able to raise them like these two people have raised us.
Yes.
Through the hard times, we've all pulled together. In the harder times, we pull the harder together. And that's why in front of you today, that's what you see. I love you. Carry the family. Me, two people right here. Thank you. Love you both. Love you.
And then my last one, Joseph, he's not spoiled. I think, no, Joseph.
Are you crazy?
Listen to this one. He's not spoiled kid.
Oh, yeah,
He's the last one, and if the machine wouldn't have broke down, I probably would have had another.
Oh, thank God.
It took 7 tries, but they finally took a long time. But no, I kind of stole this little poem that I'm going to tell you, and it meant more to me than, and I just think of it as Mom and Dad, and it goes. For all the times you stood by me, for all the truth you made me see, for all the joy you brought to my life, for all the wrongs you made right, for every dream you made come true, for all the love I found in you. You are the one who held me up and never let me fall. You are the one who saw me through it all. You gave me wings that made me fly. You touched my hand, I could touch the sky. You stood by me and I stood tall. I had your love, I had it all. You were my strength when I was weak. You were my voice when I could not speak. You were my eyes when I could not see. You saw the best that there was in me. You lifted me up when I could not reach. You gave me faith, because you believed. Mom and Dad, I'm everything I am because you love me. And that's pretty much all I have.
Salute. Salute to our family.
My mother used to talk to, you know, right. We didn't have no radio, no TV, so my mother would tell us stories and tell us different things. And what happened is I went to, when I went to Italy, I went to my mother's town. And in this town they had a little, I told this, my mother always used to talk about, the place that she used to go to, they called Monte Monaco. You know, it was a mountain part of it. So I asked this cousin of hers, I said, I would like to go there. She says, how did you know about this place? And a lot of those people, actually, when I started asking about these different places, and my mother would tell me, we'd go for wood here, we'd go harvest the wheat here, we'd go pick the figs and the olives here, and so I knew all of these places in my mind. So when I started asking these people, these cousins, a lot of these people thought I was born there and went back for a visit, you know, because you know, I could speak the language as well as they did because we had that same dialect, and I could and I remembered all of the places that we went to, so it was really.
So was it what you expected when you got there?
Yes, almost to the T. I could have visualized these places.
No way.
One place we went, we had to ride a mule for 4 miles to get to it, you know.
Yeah.
And my mother would carry the wood on her head to bring home for the fireplace, you know. They'd gather all these big thing on top of her and my Aunt Clorinda.
Yeah.
See, my Aunt Rose left, and so my mother and Aunt Clorinda did all the work over there because they lost their father, didn't have no brothers.
Definitely.
Okay, let me just tell you what happened to this bike. See, I was about 10 years old, and, you know, really didn't have any money. So the drugstore put on a contest. Every week, there's 30 of us that signed up. We would go out and sell stuff. They would give you soap, and you go out and sell soap. Next week, they'd probably give you Dutch cleanser. Next week, they'd probably give you something else, you know. And as you sold this stuff, they would give you a script. They would give you points, you know.
Yeah.
So like say this week they wanted to sell soap, and they give you 10 points for each bar you sold. Well, normally when you went to the drugstore and bought it, you got 1 point for the soap, but it was on a special. So my mother decided, says, well, maybe what we should do is buy, when the soap comes on special, we'll buy this soap, and we'll buy a lot of it, see? And then when you go out during the week selling your other stuff, you carry soap with you and sell it for this, you know, and other stuff that was on special. So we did that. And then the thing behind it that was the kicker is my mother says, you know, Joe, so what we got to do is we can't be turning in all these points at the end of the week. You know, at the end of the week you would turn in everything you had made in your points. They would total them up and they had a list up there with your name on it. And this guy was number 1, number 2, number 3. So I was always down around number 10 or 11, you know. But I kept back the money. I kept back some of these points. I would never turn them all in. So then when it was getting towards the end, it was I think we was on it for, I don't know, something like 30 weeks or 40 weeks or something like that. I don't know. Almost a long time. So as we started getting towards the end, I started bringing a little more of this money back in, and then I went up to 7th place and 5th place and 3rd place. So the last week I was in 3rd place. And the guy says, if you have any more of this script money, bring it all in. Now's the time to count it. Yeah. So I brought all my money in. And when they counted it, I was number 1. And the guy that was number 1 for 30 weeks or 40 weeks went down to number 2. See, so I won this bicycle. It was an all aluminum. Had a horn on it. Had
that thing is incredible.
Light. It was a beautiful.
Yeah, that was cool.
Well, I had this bike for a couple of years. I was about 10 there. I had this bike for a couple of years, and between me and my brothers, we probably wore out this bike, you know. So I went to see a guy live by us, and I told him, I says, Mr. Massari, would you like to buy a bike, an old junk bike? Yeah, he says, I'll buy it. So he says, how much you want for it? I said, I want $5. No, I said, I can't give you more than 3. I says, well, $4. He says, okay. So he gave me $4. So I took the $4 and I went and bought a Model T Ford. Old junk.
You serious?
Yeah, for $4. And
did it run?
It ran. Well, we pushed it more than it ran, but it would run, you know. So finally I turned around and sold this Model T to someone else, and I bought another one for $4. And this is one of the Model Ts that, when I bought this little pickup, I got stuck in the back of my house up there. So I went home to get the to get my dad's car. I was only 12 years old. My mother says, don't touch that car. Don't touch that car. So I said, I gotta go. So I jumped in the car, I jumped that Model A, I backed it out, I ran up there, went and picked up the car, pulled it home. As soon as I pulled it by my door, by my mother's yard, my mother come out with an axe. And she chopped this truck up.
No way.
Cut the radiator, busted the block, busted the engine, cut the tire. She demolished it.
No way.
It's a good thing I didn't get close. She should have probably demolished it. But anyway, so from there on, then we had, so then this bike, the guy that I sold it to fixed it up. And he sold it to somebody else. My brother come home and he says, hey, Pa, he says, you know, the bike Joe had, I see this guy here's got it. So my dad got mad because this guy bought the bike for me as a little kid, you know, and not asking the parents if it was all right. So he went to see this guy. So this guy says, well, I'll give you your money back. My dad says, no, he said, I just want you to know that it was wrong. He said, I don't want my money back. Well, anyway, this guy went and got the bike from the guy that he sold it to, brought the bike up. My dad wanted to pay him for fixing it, but he wouldn't take nothing. So here, give me this bike all fixed up.
You're kidding.
And that's
so
the end of that story. Okay.
That is great, isn't it?
Then the first day that I went to school, my mother told me, she says, the only thing my mother knew in English was, she'd say, I want you, if you have to go to the toilet, you go to the teacher, you tell her, I gotta go to the toilet. So I had to go pee. I go to the teacher, I gotta go to the toilet. She says, okay. So I take off and I come all the way from school home. I didn't know they had toilets. And so I got home, then I was so ashamed that I didn't want to go back. And so this neighbor's, my interpreter's oldest brother, he finally brought me back. And the teacher, what happened is she started me off,
Now, who was that teacher?
Mrs. Mignoni. And what happened is she says, we'll take him and keep him there for 1 year to teach him the language, and then the next year he'll start off with his peers, you know. And but first year I was there, I should have brought my report cards with all the stars.
How'd you do?
All the stars and languages. So the first year I passed it, you know. I picked it up real fast, and my brothers, amazingly, as I would go home and show them, tell them what I learned during the day, you know, when they started school, they all spoke English, you know. My brother Jersey bought a fence one time, you know, from, that used to be up around where the stone was, one of these cemetery fences. But when he got it, it didn't have a very good looking gate, you know. It was too big or something. So my brother comes up one day when he puts the fence up and he's got this real nice gate, you know. I said, where'd you get it, Jersey? He said, I went down and traded old man Pistoon for a while. He put his gate right there where this fence is.
He didn't take it?
Oh,
He did?
He took the gate. He took the gate.
Traded.
He traded. He says, that guy was real happy to do it.
He didn't complain a bit. He didn't say a word.
Well, in the old country down in that small town, every 10 years, they gather the bones and use the land over again because they're...
You're kidding.
No, it's wanted. They need the land. So what they did is they, and I didn't know it at the time, they take all of these bones, gather them up, and they throw them in like a deep well. So my cousin, when he took me, brought me over to this well, and he says, well, there they are. Do you think you could recognize them? And there it was. I looked down this shaft, and it was, I'm telling you, bones and bones.
Oh my God.
Everything. The streets where I went were all cobblestone, where my dad was born. He was born in Sicily. And
what's the name of the town?
Marianopoli.
Okay.
Okay, he was born in Marianopoli, the Provincia di Cartanizete. And he was born there, and when he was 18 months old, his dad decided to work. He was working on the railroad. They decided to follow the railroad. That at that time they built the railroad from Messina through Reggio Calabria all the way up. They were building the railroad. So they went to this town of Grimaldi, and my dad worked in this. My grandfather worked in this part of the Grimaldi. So my father was raised in Grimaldi, 2 miles away from where my mother was born. But they didn't know each other in the old country, and so Grimaldi, a lot of people in our part of in Aguilar here, the two people that you know come from Grimaldi. The Cazeros, the Guerreros, the Sposados, the Sacumanos, the Valtries, all of these people here, the Nacarados, the Guaragnolis, they all come from this little town of Grimaldi. A town probably, as a matter of fact, one time, a history instructor in Trinidad, Morris Taylor, asked me one time, he says, Joe, he says, you went to Italy, do you know where Grimaldi's at? And I says, yeah. I said, I went there, my father come from there. He says, how big is that town? I says, it might have 4,000 people, you know. He says, 4,000? He says, we probably buried 10,000 here in Trinidad. Because every time they buried one of them, you know, he was descended from the Grimaldi, you know.
What did your family in Sicily, what was their profession?
Important.
Poor people. They were farmers.
Yeah.
And they raised wheat. Now, actually as late, I went in the 60s to Italy, and as late as I went, the town was still a primitive town, where I told you that they cut the wheat right. Well, what they would do then, they would gather, and up to the 3rd floor, the house had 3 floors. It had the bottom floor, which the mules stayed in, you know, they had mules, and then the next floor was where they lived, and then the third floor was the kitchen. And then from the 3rd floor, they had a little hole and a silo built through the center of the house where they would dump all this wheat. So, like my cousin, I bet you she didn't weigh 110 pounds, and she'd pick up a 100-pound sack of wheat and walk those 3 flights of stairs and go and load them into the silo light. Well, then they used this wheat for everything. They would take so much wheat to go to and have it milled. This much for you, this much for you. They would take so much of the flour, take it to the baker. You make the bread, so much bread for you and so much bread for us. Then they would take it to the barber. You cut the hair for the year and you get so much of this. Then they would go to the shoemaker, you fix the shoes and you would get so much of this here. And this is the way that they lived. And they were still doing that when I went there. And,
when did the Ludlow Massacre happen?
1913.
Okay, when did Papa come out here?
1905.
So
he worked around. Yeah,
he was
there.
Worked.
As a matter of fact, his dad worked 1 year and went back to the old country. He had his family there, and he picked him up, and they went back to Sicily. They were in the Scalabria at the time. They went back to Sicily. Then, when the strike came, the militia come down here, and I was telling Joel about the militia there. He's got, and I said that when the militia come, they wanted to get these strikes. These guys were on strike to go back work in the mines. Well, in the meantime, if you went on strike, the company would kick you out of the camp. You know, you couldn't work there. And so one of our friends here, which Gina probably remembers, that Ventura, he killed a militiaman, shot him in the head. The bullet went through the head and hit Mike Guerrero, who was my godfather,
Kumbadi Mike,
in the eye. And my eye, he lost. Then they wanted to know who shot him, and he wouldn't tell them. So they took him to the hospital. He lost his eye. They couldn't do anything about it. Well, at that time, then they started on all the paisanos there. So my dad says, well, he says, not me here. So he hightails it off, and he takes off, and he goes to Dawson, New Mexico. And that's where he worked until everything kind of settled up again. They used to have mules in the mine that used to pull the coal cars out. And my dad was a driver, and those mules are stubborn. Every once in a while they'd get down there and they would move. You could kill them, they wouldn't move. So my dad was trying to get this mule to move, and the mule wouldn't move. So my dad got back, and the mule kicked my dad. My dad went up and punched him in the neck. Follow! And killed the mule.
Killed the mule.
Killed the mule.
Yeah.
And they fired him.
And
kept us pay to pay for the.
And how long was he fired for?
I mean, he fired. That was it. He took his stuff and left.
And he never went back?
Not to that mine. Went to another mine. Not that mine. You killed a mule. You kill a mule like you could kill a couple people. You could kill people, but you couldn't kill mules.
No, because they were important. See.
Totally.
Oh, more important than the people. Now they can replace miners all the time, but they couldn't replace mules. And they never bent a rail. They used to have a rail bender that it's made like a horseshoe. It has a screw in it, and you put the bend to make the curve on the rail. My dad would get up on the side of the mine, and he would get his feet like this, and they'd put a spike there, and he would push with his feet and bend this rail. My dad had 3 older sisters. Yes, honey, ready?
Now, is that not amazing?
Now, when we were young, we never carried a jack.
Mario do that?
All we carried was a block of wood.
Mario could probably
and my dad would lift up all the cars. We had a flat, and we'd put this block of wood under it. My dad would change it, then he'd lift it up and let it down again. Oh. As you'll notice in our side of the family, the name Gaetano and Giuseppe, they keep cropping up because the custom is you name the firstborn son after your father.
Right.
See, so I was named after my grandfather. Gaetano was named after his grandfather, after my father. See.
Yeah. You know, you and Alice both grew up in Aguilar.
Huh?
Did you see each other before you got?
Yeah. Well, at that time she was a lot younger than I. I mean, she's 3 years younger than me, and at that time, 3 years is quite a bit, you know.
Yeah. Going through school.
I graduated from school. She's in the 8th grade, you know.
Yeah.
So.
So you knew about each other. You just didn't know each other. You knew each other existed.
Well, I knew him. As a matter of fact, your brother and I went to the army together.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to the army together with Rusty, and then after I come out of the service, I lost my mind, lost my marbles.
Volare, oh, cantare, oh, nel blu dipinto di blu, felice di stare lassù.
Let's forget about domani. Let's forget about domani. Let's forget about domani, for domani never comes.
Let's forget about domani. Let's forget about domani. Let's forget about domani, for domani never comes. Tomorrow, forget tomorrow. Let's live for now, and anyhow, who needs tomorrow? The moonlight, let's share the moonlight. Perhaps together we will never be again. Oh, what a moon, oh, what a sea. With such a moon and such a sea, and you with me. I get so dizzy when you're standing near. It's not the music that you hear. My heart keeps beating like a jungle drum. Let's take the minutes as they speed away and hope it's true what people say when you're in love. Tomorrow never comes.
Su dimentichiamo domani, su dimentichiamo domani, su dimentichiamo domani, perché forse non verrà.